Now, I know in a professional athlete, like, you can show up to practice some days and they got everything laid out for you, but there's an expectation from a professional level that you're doing also things outside of those coaching sessions, those practices, right? And then bringing those things in so that the coach can then help you improve from there.
Welcome back to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. I am here with my host, Matt Pinelli. I am Garrett Fry. We are so excited to share some time with you again today. So, Matt, let's jump right in. Approaching your business as a professional athlete. Who would have ever thought this would be a good idea? Like, just show up like a professional athlete handles their training, workout routine. I'm ready to go, man.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? We have professional athletes, we put them kind of on a pedestal and we use them as examples all the time in leadership classes, personal development, and everything is like, look at the dedication and all this stuff that goes on there. Well, what's the difference between a professional and an amateur is that, well, the professional is getting paid to do the thing and the amateur's not, right? Well, you're getting paid to help guide people through a real estate transaction. So shouldn't we approach it at a high level like a professional athlete does their activity, their sport, whatever it is? And it brings up a couple of things that we get to discuss here.
Well, and I think we work with a lot of people that come to us, Matt, and they want professional athlete results. Like that's what they want in their business. They want to be on that podium at the end of the year. They want to be the number one person in their office. They want to be the number one person in their MLS. They want the plaque that says you did it. Like that is the gold trophy at the end of the year that you get to say, I hit these incredibly high levels. There's a lot of people that is the driver for them. And you might be one of them that's listening to this right now, but then you have to stop and ask yourself do I give it the level of intensity that causes those types of results to happen? And for the most part, if you were a professional athlete and I sat down with you and I said, or let's say your strive was to be a professional athlete, and I sat down with you and said, tell me about your workout routine this last week. And you're like, well, Monday I was kind of tired and I didn't quite feel like it. So, I decided not to work out that day. And then Tuesday, I did about a 30-minute run in the morning. Well, your goal is to be a marathon runner, right? Yeah, I know, but that's all I had time for that day. I mean, so I got a 30-minute run in and it was good. I mean, it felt good. And then, well, are you doing any strength training? Well, it's just not easy for me to get to the gym all the time. So like, I do some little calisthenics and things like that. It's like, oh my gosh, like we could do this for years operating this way and never get to professional marathon runner status. I'm just going to tell you right now. But we watch people show up to their business this way all the time and then wonder where they're at the end of the year going, this is not the year I wanted. This is not the results I wanted. I'm not number one in the office. What happened? I was supposed to be number one, Matt.
What a great analogy in terms of, because so now just replay that for business. Okay, great. You want to be number one in the office? Awesome. Tell me about your week last week. How were you doing with your outbound communications to your sphere and your clients? Well, I got kind of busy with, this deal and it took up a lot of time. So I didn't make any phone calls last week. Okay, well, how about, your marketing? Did you get your emails, your postcards, your videos, social media, whatever it is you want to do out the door? Yeah, I was going to, but I didn't like my hair that day. So I decided that I wasn't going to do the videos. And I kind of had this postcard there, but I just kind of figured I'd save some money this week. It's like, oh, okay, great. Well, now we can see, hey, we're not putting that professional level intention into our business. And I think it's not only are you doing, but are you willing to do the things? And gosh, we're so great at selling ourselves on excuses. But if you want to be professional grade, we got to start thinking like, okay, well, what do true professionals do? What are the key elements of their habits, their routines? And if we look at an athlete, Garrett, like, okay, yeah, there's the physical training, but what's behind that? I see routine. I see healthy habits, mindful habits. I see dedication to practice, right? I see dedication to looking at constructive criticism and feedback and adjusting. I see coaching, multiple different coaching, going on there. There's a lot of things that people running businesses in general just don't do, which is why they don't elevate to what people might call a professional grade business.
So let's stay on this professional athlete analogy here for a second, because I think that if you looked at a professional athlete and said, okay, let's run your professional athlete trainings and all this, like some of the people that we see that are trying to run their businesses. Okay, so you missed your workouts for a week. Let's cram all the workouts from that week into this week on top of the actual exercises that you should be doing no matter what to be consistent with this. So instead of you running, again, we're going with marathon status here right now. So instead of you running 20 miles this week or 30 miles this week, we're going to run 60 miles this week because, we got to catch up. We're going to get in our reps. We got to get in our stuff. When you talk about like the nutrition that maybe you haven't been putting into your body, the protein amounts that you haven't been eating every single day consistently to build the muscles and have the body structure that you want to have, well, we'll just double up on protein this week. I'm just going to double up for this entire week and make up for last week. And, everything should work out. We should be pretty good. When you go to strength training, you can't double up on all the weight and say, well, I usually squat this much, but I'm going to double it this week. And I'm going to do extra reps. That'll get me back on track on my workout routine. It's how you hurt yourself. Like that is how you damage yourself. And we watch it in real estate and business all the time, Matt, where these people try to double up on all these systems. I'm going to do 20 real estate reviews this week because I haven't been doing them for the last couple of months and I'm ready to go. And they get about halfway through that and they're miserable. They're not having fun with it. They're dreading making the phone calls. They never come out the other side of that going like, wow, that was worth it. They come out the other side of it going like, I got it done, but it was miserable. And I think we fall in this trap all the time.
This is a great point you've made because it shows the long-term thinking. And all the great professional athletes, even the professional athletes you probably don't even know of, have longer term thinking. They're not like, gosh, I'm just going to wake up tomorrow and go win the PGA championship. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and go run the record breaking marathon. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and go win the World Series. No, they put in the time. They understand that the goals are long term and that every day of the years leading up to that, they put in the effort to go there. Whereas in business and in real estate in particular, people look for that quick result. Let me just get that client tomorrow. I'm going to do those 20 real estate reviews this week and just make this the month that all of a sudden we explode. And you can do that if you are building from a solid foundation. I mean, that's the cool thing about business is results can happen really, really fast because you don't necessarily have to condition your body. But if you aren't engaging in those activities, conditioning your body, conditioning your mind, conditioning your business, it's going to be really hard to elevate to that professional level status. And so I think this is a shift for people if you're listening. Ask yourself, are you willing to put in the effort and the work consistently? Are you willing to say no to things that you really don't want to say yes to so that you can see the results that you want to see over time? We mentioned that clip from Gary Vee, I think a couple episodes ago, and that got me thinking about that again, where Gary Vee is like, great, you want to be a millionaire. Well, why rush it and say, I have to hit it by 25 and end up disappointed if you don't? Instead say, I really want that. And this is when he was talking to like a late teenager. Why don't you just set the goal for the mid to late 30s and build a consistent plan? And if you hit it early, fantastic. And if you don't hit it until when you're in your 30s, like awesome, you built a great plan and had consistency to get there. And that's the same thing for your business. If you want to take your business from 100,000 a year to $1 million a year, it's possible to do it in a year. But what if you went from 100 to 250 next year? Because you were laying great foundation. And then you went from 250 to 350. And then maybe you were like 350 to 400, a small gap, and then 400 to 800. Like the dedication to consistent, productive habits for not only your business, but for your own personal health and well-being, because that's going to contribute to your business, is going to bring you up to that status over time.
Well, and I think that's, in growing this business, Matt, and like a professional athlete, it's not just the reps of the weight. It's not just the nutrition. You got to bring in your mindset. You got to bring in your health to this, your personal health. You need to bring in the actual routines that you're putting down every single day without a missed day, without, they talk about, Jerry Seinfeld talks about don't break the chain.
Write a joke every day, right?
These athletes, these professional athletes, they know I can't break the chain. These are my workout routines. These are the non-negotiables. And what happens is gold medal status for a handful of these people. A lot of them get to achieve things in running and weightlifting and sports that most people will never dream about. But they didn't get there by accident. They didn't get there by just kind of half-assing it along the way and then going like, okay, now I'm going to like really show up for this. If you go back to any professional athlete and you look back to literally when they were in high school to who they are now, it's like, well, no wonder you ended up on the NFL. No wonder you ended up playing in the NBA. No wonder, like, the story of Michael Jordan is absolutely amazing. If anybody gets a chance to listen to it, and his routines that he did and how he showed up and how he approached the gym time and the practicing with his teammates, like it's like you sit back and you go, well, yeah, no wonder you were that good. Like there's no other way you can be when you show up that way. And I think we have this incredible opportunity in our business, and which brings us down. I know you got something you want to share with us, Matt, but I also want to shift to, if you also look at all these people, one of the things that's consistent with all of them is they have coaches in their world that show up for them and help them. And you mentioned multiple coaches, and they have their nutrition coaches, they have their weightlifting coaches, they have their cardio coaches. Like they have coaches to help them run at that level. Otherwise, they get off track.
Yeah, and this is the difference between the top pros and the people who are maybe at the amateur status or low professional grade, right? And I'm glad you brought Jerry Seinfeld into this too, because that shows the transition from professional athlete, professional comedian to professional whatever is consistency and practice. And it doesn't take, I think a lot of people, the reason why I like the athlete comparison is an athlete can't train all day, every day. Otherwise, they're going to burn out their body. And so for people to say, well, I don't have enough time to do all the things that are going to get my business where it wants to be. It's like, no, you just need to dedicate the time to the hard work, because that's what athletes do. They dedicate the time to the hard work. And then when they're not doing the work, they make sure they're doing other things or avoiding other things that could impede their ability to do hard work the next day. And a lot of people in real estate don't do those things. They're not paying attention closely to their health and well-being and their personal relationships and other things that could impact their state of mind, which may hold them back from doing a calling session the next day. And this is also where coaching plays a role, and this is why a lot of professional athletes have multiple coaches to help them be on track in certain spaces. I was listening to one entrepreneur talk the other day. He's like, man, I got a relationship coach. I got a business coach. And this is a guy who also coaches business. He's got his own business coach. He's like, I got a mindset coach. He's like, I got a revenue coach. I got a fitness coach. I'm like, wait, so that's already up to 5 coaches that this person has to help them be at the level that they're going to be at. And then they show up to those things, because I think, Garrett, another thing that we see happen is people will hire a coach thinking that that's going to be the change, right? But then they don't show up to interact with that coach in a certain way. And you have obviously decades of history of coaching people and knowing like, well, what's the right way to show up to work with a coach so that we can be at professional grade?
Starting off, a lot of people go get a coach because they've been told they need to go get a coach. Somebody will say, you should have a coach in your life. You should go do this. I've even had people come to me for coaching and they're like, I'm here because my wife says I have to hire you. And I'm like,
how many times did it go the other way? Is that my wife thinks I'm crazy for hiring a coach?
Well, that can happen also, but that person at least is all in. The first person I mentioned is like, they're not in on this. They really don't want it. It's the same thing as when, whether it's a spouse or whether it is a owner of a company that says, you should hire a coach. You need to get a coach. And if you're going to continue with this company, you need to have a coach. It is the most miserable coaching relationship, Matt, we can ever have with somebody, because they're not here because they want to be coached. They're here because they want to make their boss happy so they don't get let go. So they kind of show up and they do everything kind of halfway. And they're like, well, what are you going to teach me today? And, they sit back on their heels and they're just waiting for like, what kind of goods do you have that I can go apply here? Where if you take someone who's really coachable and all the people that I coach, you know exactly who you are, because we wouldn't be doing this for as long as we have if you weren't this way, because it would drive me crazy. But you show up basically saying, I want to be better. Here's the areas I want to grow in. Here's where I need to, to achieve in. But you're also willing for me to go, Have you thought about this? And have you seen this potential over here that maybe you're not even paying attention to? And somebody who's not coachable will sometimes just go, yeah, but I need your help in these areas. This is it. And the person that is coachable says, well, what are you talking about over here? And let's explore this a little bit. And let's talk about what that is and what that looks like and how this grows. Lee Eckroth is a prime example. Lee Eckroth, one of the most coachable people I've ever worked with. I coached him for years in his business. He's now retired out of Corvallis, Oregon. And Lee's somebody that I could throw an idea to and be like, have you ever thought about trying this? And instead of him going, yeah, I'm not that guy, he'd be like, well, what would that look like? And we would start to like expand on that a little bit more. Well, what if we approach it? No, that doesn't quite feel like, well, how could we make it feel like you? Well, if we did it this way, that feels more like me. Okay, well, let's expand down that way. And we had this really amazing journey conversation that ends us up with him saying, I think I could throw a party like that. I think I could get an event together like that. What feels good to me is not a client appreciation party, but a life is great party. And what feels good about this is that we're just going to invite all the families that we know down to the river, and I'm going to have a big barbecue all set up, and we'll sit there and we'll do paper airplane throwing competitions and hula hoop competitions, and everybody's just going to enjoy the day to celebrate our great relationships and our fun. I can do that. He would not do the client appreciation party with something he's like, I don't know, it feels icky. That turned into a 400-person event 4 to 5 years later. Like, you look at that and I go, that's a coachable person. He did the same thing with hiring an assistant. At first he pushed back. He's like, not ready to hire an assistant, not willing to do it. But about a month later, he came to me and said, let's discuss that. What would that look like? And all of a sudden I was like, you're at that place you need to hire somebody. But he was open to learn and to figure out what that might look like for him. And it went from, I'm not sure I want to hire anybody, to 2 months later going, Garrett, I'm actually going to hire 2 people. That's who I got. I need this person for this. I need this. I don't know how I'm going to afford it, but I know I need them now. I can see how I'm going to apply them into my business. Extremely coachable. Non-coachable people, Matt, we've done it all the time where they've got every excuse in the world, every pushback. That's not me. That doesn't feel right. I'm just not going to do it. But everything's roadblocks. Everything is just roadblocks.
And there's people who sit in between too, quite frankly. And that's where most people sit, is in this space of like, yeah, like I'm willing to look at these things, but I'm not willing to change, or I'm not willing to do this. And this is where getting clear on like, well, what do you really want to do? And something that comes to my mind is Ed Milet's quote of saying, winning is more fun than fun is fun. And his point in saying that was like, yeah, sometimes you want to go have fun, but it's actually more fun to go home and go to bed and kill it the next day than it is to go out and have that quote fun night with the friends, right? And I think that's where you have to get into understanding of like, what is truly fun for you? What do you truly want to have in your life? And are you willing then to put that above other things that may also be fun, but aren't really what you want long term? And that's a hard, I struggle with that. It's a hard point to cross.
I think it's important to understand also, Matt, that not everybody wants to be a professional athlete. And I get it. And even in their business, not everybody wants to be at that level. I keep, my daughter Celeste keeps coming back into my head here right now. And she's currently right now goes to Texas A&M. And when she left, she was on a volleyball level playing that they took state for California when she graduated her senior year. She was on the varsity team. They crushed it. She earned her spot on that team. She wasn't sure she had a place up front, and she turned into one of the main players as they got to that space. It was interesting as she was going off to college, we kept going, are you going to play? Are you going to play? Are you going to try out for the team? Because, you just left a state winning team. Like, you should do this. And it was really interesting where she said, I want to play volleyball. I am not willing to give up going to the mountain and going snowboarding. I'm not willing to give up. She got this whole list of all these things. She goes, I know if I go play at a D1 school for volleyball, I'm going to have to sign a release that I'm not doing all these things. And that's part of being on that team and playing at that level. Now, the school does that because they're expecting these people to be the elite athletes that they want, that are going to play at that high level. The coach is going to hold them to all these things that go like, look, the chance of you not being a star athlete by taking a huge fall up on the mountain snowboarding, we're not willing to take that risk. That's not, if you're not fully committed to this, we're not fully committed to you. It's okay. She chose to go do club volleyball, which allowed her to play at a very high level and have fun for Texas A&M still. But she's like, I get to go have the fun and go do all this stuff. At the same time, the club volleyball is not acknowledged the same way that the D1 level is acknowledged, and you make these trade-offs. And so I think it's important, Matt, to understand that it's okay to make these trade-offs. Like there are certain ones you need to understand the parameters and go, I'm okay with it. I know what I'm in. It's when you don't know and you're not showing up and you're just not doing the stuff just because you just, that's troubling.
Well, and I think that's the difference. And you have to look at and say, hey, is what I'm saying that I want to do, is what I'm saying the goal that I want to achieve is that professional athlete type of commitment there? Or can I do that with kind of not that much commitment? And I'd say for most people, like it, and here's the cool thing too. When it comes to your business, when we say professional athlete level commitment, like you start to assess the things in your world and your life that you want to change to go achieve that. It's probably a lot of really good stuff, because in business, you don't have to sign something that says, I'm not going to go snowboarding on the weekends. Now, you do probably have to make a commitment to yourself to maybe not go lounge at the pool in the afternoon and instead maybe go to a networking thing or make phone calls or whatever it is. Okay, there are some things that'll change, but with business, most likely it's going to be better for you, because when you start giving this professional athlete commitment, the hours worked, quote unquote, don't necessarily increase. It's the intention and the intensity of those hours that changes.
So one more person I want to share. And this is an agent that I coached up in Portland, Oregon, many years ago. And her professional athlete status that she wanted to run to in her real estate business, she goes, I want to make $100,000 a year. I only want to work 3 days a week. And that was her thing. And so if you look at it, like that's a high achieving goal, 3 days a week, making $100,000 a year. And she's like, I've got young kids. She goes, I don't want to have to sacrifice being a mom. She goes, so I got to figure out how to do this. And we did it consistently for years. We just kind of just hit that every single time. She knew exactly what she needed to do with the days that were her working days. She did not miss it. She was super consistent, which gave her this income and this freedom with her kids. And I think for anybody listening out here, like that might be what professional status athlete looks like, is knowing what the goal is and showing up without excuses. And I think that's a place also. So, a lot of people don't know what level they're even trying to play at. They're just kind of trying to be good, trying to be great. Who knows what that kind of is?
Well, and looping back into the coaching, because like that's a good example of like, okay, well, a lot of people, now I know that was years ago, and $100,000, even just 10 years ago, is different than $100,000 today. Like, oh man, investing into like,
you can't even buy a loaf of bread nowadays for that.
$100,000, gosh. Investing into a coach at that level, like that seems like lots. Well, if you're willing to make that commitment, those investments will pay off for you. And I think going back to how do you show up as a coachee if you're being coached is, are you willing to explore questions with your coach? Are you willing to take action after those things, take notes and put things into play and come to your coach with questions? Some of my best coaching calls are when people come and say, hey, I've done this, 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 and this. Here's what I'm experiencing. Can we talk about these things and figure out how do we adjust, versus just showing up and be like, okay, coach. Now I know in a professional athlete, like, you can show up to practice some days and they got everything laid out for you, but there's an expectation from a professional level that you're doing also things outside of those coaching sessions, those practices, right? And then bringing those things in so that the coach can then help you improve from there. And that's the thing that I see with entrepreneurs and real estate agents, is when they show up for their coach, really is when they show up to their coach for themselves, I should say. That's a better way to put it. They see much better success in the long run because they're doing the little things. They understand that each session isn't that I'm just going to load up the extra miles today with my coach. I'm just going to load up the extra protein with my coach. It's like, no, we're going to do our analysis and assessment. And then I'm going to go do the work and we're going to come back and do analysis and assessment. And over time, this is going to build into an incredible thing. And which is why you see a lot of the top talent retain coaches, whereas the lower level talent, maybe not. I had one client tell me that he went to a closing And this is Creighton Faust up in the Lehigh Valley, and he's an incredible agent, does an outrageous amount of volume on his own. And he had mentioned to this, I think it was the lender at closing, about his coach, which was me. And I was humbled by that. And the lender said, "You have a coach? Like, you should be the coach." And he's like, "Well, I mean, this is how I'm able to continue to grow and maintain and stay focused, is by having somebody who is looking at my business from a different way." Um, and sure, he has the ability probably to coach and train people as well. Absolutely, he does. He's an amazing person. But there's a reason why top talent has people in their world. There's a reason why we seek out coaches. There's a reason why we seek out people to help better ourselves, because we want to continue to elevate ourselves to bring more value to everybody listening here.
Sometimes when people hire a coach, they expect the coach to do some of the heavy lifting for them. And the reality is that we're not going to do any of the heavy lifting ever. Like I don't do any heavy lifting for you at all. The heavy lifting job is for you. That's for you to do. And I use the example a lot of times of Michael Phelps, or a swimming coach, but Michael Phelps, most people know who Michael Phelps is. And, Michael Phelps meets with his coach probably at least once a week, maybe multiple, at least used to, multiple times a week would meet with the coach. In between the coaching sessions, Michael had very specific things he had to consistently do. And if he showed up to the pool and sat down with his coach, and his coach said, "How was your workouts this week?" And he said, "I didn't do them," the coach would be like, "What are we doing here? Like, go away. Until you're serious about this, like at the level we're trying to play at, don't waste my time. I'll go work with somebody else who's willing to do the workouts." Michael knows that. Michael does the workouts. Part of the value of having the coach is he knows he's going to have to sit down, and he knows he has a coach that's going to kick him out of the pool if he doesn't do his stuff. And then the other part is that the coach then sits there and watches him swim. And the coach will sit on the side of the pool and say, "Michael, swim some laps for me for a second. I want you to swim at 10/10, swim all the way out. I want you to rip down to the end of the pool, and I want you to come back." And the coach then will sit with him and say, "These are all the things that I'm watching you do right now. This is how your hands are entering the water. I want you to change this just a little bit. I'm noticing you're bending your knees a little bit more. How's your back? Do you have any lower back things going on right now? Because that's something I typically watch you do when you have lower back stuff kind of aching and ailing you." Michael Phelps' coach knows him, knows his swimming routines, knows how his body works, has been watching him for years, is this eyes from the outside that can say, "Change these little things, go take another lap, come back, let's talk again." And this is what we do in coaching all the time, Matt, is we know these people's businesses at such a high level. I can tell right away when somebody's off. And I love it when I'm on a coaching call and I'm like, "Hold on a second, are you okay?" And they're like, "How did you hear that?" And I'm like, "Because I know you. I've been around you long enough. We've been doing this long enough. I know your little idiosyncrasies that cause you to behave that way. I know for a fact when your assistant's pissing you off, you don't do your stuff. You go hide. So what's happening with your assistant over here? How's your relationship with them right now?" We get into all these nuts and bolts and figure this all out and fine tune it. And it's also, I think, where a lot of people make a mistake with a professional coach and also a business coach is they come in quick and they go, "Okay, what do you got for me? How's this coach?" "Yeah, I'm not seeing the results that I want right now." "Okay, see you later. I'm going to over here and try another coach over this side." And they don't give it the longevity. They don't give it the time for us to learn all your BS that you say that you don't realize that you say, that we can say, "Are you done thinking that? Are you done saying that? Are you done showing up that way?" Because sometimes you got a lot of baggage that you don't realize. And it takes a while for a coach to kind of work through all that stuff, figure it out so we can go like, "Okay, I'm not willing to hear that again. You need to stop saying that. I don't want to hear those words come out of your mouth again. Now we're going to go do this." It takes time, and you got to be committed to that time. Both sides, the coach has to be committed and the client has to be committed to being open, being vulnerable, putting it all on the table, and being willing to listen and learn. That relationship's there. Oh my gosh, I'll take that coaching client all day long.
Oh,
Awesome.
absolutely. Well, so I'll ask this question to everybody. If you have big goals for yourself in business and in life, are you willing to approach it like a professional athlete approaches his sport? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to give it that level of intent? Are you willing to give it that level of dedication? And if so, then do it. Because we believe in you. We know that you can. And if you want to be a part of an incredible team of people who are working together, We created the 11 Circle just for this reason, so that people can have access to coaching at a reasonable kind of investment and be around other people. Because a lot of business coaching is one-on-one, and we do that as well. And we love it. And we also see an incredible opportunity and growth in the, hey, but let's get people together so they can learn and grow and hold each other accountable while also having that coaching aspect. And that's what we provide inside the 11 Circle. And you can also join our Life at 10 Tenths community as well if you're not ready for that level of interaction quite yet. But you can do all that stuff over at lifeat10tenths.com. And that's the real reason why Garrett and I do this, is because we want to impact a lot of people, because we love doing this. We have so much fun doing this, which is why this podcast exists, which is why we've now over 6 years into doing podcasting and everything, is because we just love sharing these insights that we learn from the people that we work with. And it's a whole ton of fun. So check us out at lifeat10tenths.com if you want to join and be a part of our world and give that level of dedication to your business that I know you feel that deserves, and we'll help you with that. So
love it, Matt. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you tons. And until the next time.
Take care, everybody.